welcome back to another episode of the Women's Sports Matter podcast. My name is Untitled Chapter, and I am your host. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that was confidential, but it is out for the world to see. That's right, I'm talking about the Fan Project today. Of course, this is a collaboration with Athlete Strategies, who messaged me last week on Twitter asking me to go through this stuff and to share with the world the beautiful brand new stats that we have that support women's sports viewership. We have the stats finally to show to the haters of women's sports that women belong and they are flourishing. Of course, before we get to all of this amazing statistics and what the Fan Project is really about, we have to head to commercial break. We're going to hear a word from today's sponsor, Anchor. Of course, I make my podcast with Anchor. You can listen on Anchor. It's a great app. Of course, you're going to hear all about it in the commercial. So let's head to that ad read. Isn't that fun? Yeah, I think it's fun. It's a blast. I save you guys from listening in the middle. It also helps me with editing wise. Anyway. So you're listening to the Women's Sports Matter podcast. My name is Untitled Chapter. I'm your host. Let's head to the ad read about Anchor, and then we'll dive into what the Fan Project report is all about. Play that ad read! Hey everyone, it's Gianna Castro from the Women's Sports Matter podcast, and today I'm going to be discussing the sponsor of this show, Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Of course, that ad read is as beautiful as always. I took a lot of time to read the documents that I have before me. A lot of great information. I don't know if I'll be able to touch on it all. I think I might, take screenshots of it and post it on my socials, which you can follow me on Twitter at WSM Podcast and on Instagram at Women's Sports Matter. But let's cut to the chase here. What is the Fan Project report? Don't worry, I have a summary for you, so you don't have to go and look this up. You can listen to this, get it ingrained in your brain. It was a nice little thing that I just did there. You're welcome, everyone. So, what's the Fan Project report? The Fan Project is a report from Sports Innovation Lab, developed utilizing consent-based data submitted directly from fans that unlocks the business potential of women's sports. Now, you guys, you know how much I love women's sports here because obviously the title of this podcast is Women's Sports Matter. So I am very thankful that Athlete Strategies reached out to me to, post about this on socials, talk about it on the pod. It's really exciting stuff. And it just shows how much we're growing here and how much women's sports is growing in the U.S. So, the digitally native fluid fan is the path to growth for the entire women's sports industry, and fans of women's sports are the most fluid fans of all, representing the future fan and a bullseye for revenue growth. So, do you want to hear some stats? Anyone want to hear stats? Anyone? So, remember how the U.S. women's national team won the World Cup in 2019? Following the U.S. women's national team fourth FIFA World Cup win in 2019, Nike saw a 500% increase in jersey sales. That is awesome. That is so cool. I mean, those are expensive to buy. I'm just going to say. I don't have one yet. I do want one. And those things sold out quickly too. The one thing that bothers me with Nike is there's so much demand for these jerseys. They don't make enough and they sell out right away. So I think Nike needs to step up their game a little bit, especially with a 500% increase in jersey sales. They should know better. A little bit more into that later. Let's see, what is something else? Ooh. So you remember how the WNBA was in a bubble? Do we all remember that? There was a documentary. They were in Bradenton, Florida. They were playing at IMG Academy, one of those fancy high schools down in Florida. It was a nice bubble. There's a documentary about it. It's called 144, I believe, and it's available on ESPN. I have not had the chance to watch that yet. I'm trying to watch it. We're going to talk about that on Thursday's episode when I interview someone behind one of my favorite WNBA Twitter accounts. So that's something to stay in tune for, listen to that episode. But anyway, let's hear this beautiful stat. Nearly 2/3, 62% of viewership spikes during the WNBA bubble were driven by storytelling content that had nothing to do with stats, scores, or schedules. So this is stuff like that one day of protesting, when the shooting of Jacob Blake happened, just social media content from players and the teams from inside the bubble, or the wubble, as they like to call it. They should have put that on here because I totally forgot for a second that it was called Wubble. It was like a whole hashtag and everything. Oh my god. It's kind of like could have had a V8 moment. But anyway, that's really cool. One of my favorite things about women's sports social media is the people behind the team's official accounts, whether it's Instagram or Twitter. The stuff that they post is awesome. Strong meme game, posting stuff about players. It's really cool. And the people that are behind this stuff are really, really creative and they're doing an awesome job. So they're helping us, in terms of viewership with women's sports, talking about the athletes, not just showing their scores or the stats, showing real people doing their job, doing what they love is really awesome, and I hope they continue to do that. Let's talk about the NWSL for a second here. In 2020, the NWSL made their content both interactive and accessible through partnerships with CBS Sports and Twitch, which was showing a 476% increase in viewership and more than 60 million minutes viewed on Twitch, when almost every men's league game saw double-digit declines in viewership. 2020 was the year of women's sports. The NWSL and WNBA both saw viewership increases, which was beautiful to see. We'll talk about that in a second. I gotta go find that graph really quick. I was just looking at it before. Percent change in viewership numbers 2019 to 2020. When women's sports is accessible, the community will tune in. And it shows that people want to watch women's sports. Let's see here. I'm trying to. The NWSL, 476%. WNBA Finals, 15% viewership increase. The worst out of all of this was the Stanley Cup Finals, which lost 61% in viewership in compared to 2019. So that's something. The least affected was NASCAR. Is that 0.1%? I think that's or is that just 1%? There's no decimal point. I'm lost. I think it's just 1% decrease in viewership. WNBA lost 16%, but they made up for that with the WNBA finals being 15%. What is this beautiful thing? Make watching interactive. Give women's sports communities more ways to be together when watching live events. So this is a graphic about the Women's World Cup in 2019 and the Men's World Cup in 2018. I will post this on my socials so you can see this. I watched both tournaments. I thought they were both exciting. I was very, very ashamed when Germany lost to Mexico in 2018 in that World Cup. I complain about that a lot. As someone who has German heritage, it was very, very upsetting to see them choke like that. They're chokers. But I was very happy when the U.S. won in 2019. They deserved it. Go USA. You know, in terms of women's soccer. I'm not that patriotic, everyone. Anyway, 43% of viewership for the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup came from digital channels, including those who watched on both digital and linear channels. Conversely, only 8.9% of the viewership for the 2018 Men's World Cup came from digital channels. It's a nice thing. Again, I'm going to post this on Twitter. I don't know if I'll post it on Instagram. I might do a little slideshow. And there's another infographic for the NWSL, a case study. When content is consistent and easy to find, fans of women's sports demonstrate they will turn up and tune in as a community. For the first time in 2020, 100% of NWSL games were available to the fans in the United States and abroad either through their TV or by streaming. The league signed a landmark 4-year deal with CBS, putting games on linear TV, plus the CBS All Access streaming, and signed a 3-year deal with Twitch to broadcast games online for free to international audiences. Without the barrier to access these games, fans consumed content in record numbers. So, with CBS Sports, they saw a 475% increase in viewership, 60 million minutes watched from Twitch, 350% increase in male fans engaging on social media, and 15% increase in social media engagement. That's pretty neat. I watched a lot of games on Twitch for the NWSL. I still do. Sometimes they're on Twitch, sometimes they're on Paramount Plus, also known as CBS All Access, and sometimes they are on CBS and CBS Sports Network. So there's a lot of different places you can watch the NWSL in the United States, but you can also watch on Twitch if you're an international fan. I know Canadians sometimes have a hard time watching. They complain a lot about Twitch, so it's hard to see that on social media, of course. I hope they fix that soon. So, yeah, I want to see if there's anything else important on this infographic. Before I move on to what I wanted to talk about, sales are increasing for sponsors of these teams like Visa or Budweiser, Nike. Some cool stuff. Let's see here. Ooh. I want to talk about... There's one thing that I wanted to talk about before. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's about this thing right here. Athletes and their stories unite and grow their communities. Fans of women's sports want access to athletes and learn more about them. The growth of athlete-driven media is not slowing down. Fans' desire to engage with women athletes has grown exponentially over the past few years, reaching a fever pitch in 2020 amidst the pandemic. For decades, the Olympics and Paralympics led by example when it came to storytelling around women athletes and creating ways for fans to connect with their favorite athletes. We now see this same behavior taking form across other major events globally and domestically. Do you want to know who the top 5 are for athletes who fans wanted access to most? Do you have a guess for number 1? Or let's go 5 to 1. Number 5 is goalkeeper Ashlyn Harris for the Orlando Pride. She is a goalkeeper for the U.S. Women's National Team, won the World Cup in 2019, is the starting goalkeeper for the Orlando Pride, and is married to the defender for the Pride and for the U.S. Women's National Team, Allie Krieger. Number 4 is point guard Steph Curry for the Golden State Warriors. He is the only male on this list, which is, I'm kind of surprised there is a guy on this list, but how can you not love Steph Curry? Breaking records, 3-point game is so good, great player, definitely Hall of Famer in the future. It's nice to see a supporter of women's sports on this list, so I can understand why he is included. Number 3 is hometown hero Candice Parker, a forward for the Chicago Sky. She was from my hometown, or not from my hometown, because where I live is not my hometown. In the city that I currently live in. Very confusing stuff here. So she's awesome. I understand why she's on this list. She's done a lot of great work for TNT, and yelling at Shaq. So, great player, great commentator. I can see her becoming a coach one day. Definite Hall of Famer. Does a lot of great stuff for the community. And just great overall basketball player, so I'm not surprised. Number 2 on this list is 4-time WNBA champion Sue Bird, who's going to the Olympics this year. The Olympic roster was listed today for the Team USA women's team. Kind of sad that Candice Parker and Diamond Shield is not on that team, but congratulations to Sue Bird. I don't know how many Olympics this will be for. I think it's 5 Olympics. So that's really cool. Of course, iconic in the world of basketball. Just what's not to love about Sue Bird? And speaking of Sue Bird, y'all know who number 1 is? Number 1 is forward Megan Rapinoe, who plays for OL Reign, who is, of course, getting married to Sue Bird. I don't know when, but Megan Rapinoe proposed to Sue Bird, if any of y'all missed out on that. Another iconic couple in the world of women's sports. I can definitely understand why fans would want more access to Megan Rapinoe. She was very outspoken during the World Cup when she trashed the Orange in office because he's a terrible person. But that's just my opinion, by the way. Her whole commentary during the World Cup was awesome, and she's just a great leader in general. Probably, if you looked at this 5 people, you wouldn't be surprised. They have a very great presence on social media and within their respective communities. So this is a great list, and I'm not shocked at all. No surprises here, except for maybe Steph Curry being included in this, but what's not to love? Speaking of what's not to love, how many of you own a WNBA hoodie? You know, the iconic orange hoodies with the logo on it. I own one. I got one for my birthday last year, I believe. Yep, got it for my birthday last year. It's a wonderful hoodie. It's very comfortable. I recommend getting one to show your support for the WNBA. When players started wearing it, NBA players, MLB players, NWSL, WNBA, all different athletes were wearing it. And that just started a conversation, and people started buying merch of different teams within the WNBA. Let me read this little paragraph about it. During the wobble, the peak of the own/buy behavior took place during the season when the athletes were playing, but also when they were driving social justice conversations off the court. Fans of women's sports spend liberally to support athletes who align with their values. The result: the WNBA orange hoodie became a staple cultural item, and one that continues to be in high demand, is often impossible to find in all sizes, even a year later. Just a surprising stat, to say the least. I'm glad that I have one, and I have it in my size. So if you're going to look for one as you're listening to this, good luck with that. I hope it's not that hard to find. I didn't think it was now, but I guess people are seeing that it's worth it to buy the merch, and I hope that Nike is starting to see supply and demand. Is there anything else that I want to talk about here that is important? I think I am done talking about this. I talked about different sponsors and everything like that. And I don't think there's anything else to read. I did read this before. I would just like to say I'm not reading this for the first time. I do my research, of course. I'm a great host. Oh, one more thing. Where do fans go to learn about women's sports? Do you have any ideas? Anyone in the crowd? No? People go to The Athletic. Fans of women's sports will pay to learn. The Athletic, which puts the majority of its content behind a paywall, was by far a top outlet for women's sports fans to go read and learn about women's sports, teams, athletes, and related happenings. It is invested in dedicated full-time resources to cover women's sports, including creating full divisions for NWSL and WNBA coverage, as well as focusing on storytelling. That's 14% of where women's sports fans go to learn about this. Now, you may be thinking, where can I go to look at this project? Let me tell you. If you go to www.thefanproject.co, you will go to the website, and you can click read the report button, and it's just, you scroll for days. Not really for days, a few minutes. You can read all about the different findings of the report. It's very interesting stuff. It was nice to see that there are stats to back us up when it comes to talking about women's sports and why women's sports matter. Wow, that's the name of the show. That's crazy. Not really. It's not crazy. They also have a shop, which their stuff here is really cool. It's merch for the fan project. And you can check out their stuff, of course, linked in bio as always. And I had a lot of fun talking about this. And this stuff is great. We need to support people who are trying to tell the stories of women in sports and non-binary people, because those people are important too. Women and non-binary people, especially now there's 2 trans players in the NWSL. That's so awesome. And it's great to not see backlash, and it's great to see support for these 2 people. And by the way, these two people that I'm talking about go by they, them pronouns. So if you do talk about them on Twitter or wherever, make sure that you're using the right pronouns and you're honoring them. Be respectful, But hey, just try your best. And that's going to be it for today. I had a lot of fun talking about the fan project. And I'm super duper excited for this episode to come out so everyone can learn more about women's sports. If you want to follow me on social media, guess what? You can. I said it early in the episode, but guess what? I'm going to do it again. On Twitter, you can follow me at WSM Podcast. And on Instagram, you can follow me at Women's Sports Matter. Why aren't you subscribed yet? You're listening to my episode, but you didn't hit the subscribe button? It's kind of weird. I think you should hit the subscribe button. That'd be nice if you did that, Then you would get my episode, maybe on Spotify. It would show up on your homepage. Then you would click on it, and then you would listen to it. And then you would just know every week or whenever I post, it would just show up. That's cool. Maybe you should do that. I highly recommend that you subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and rate my show because I love feedback. I love feedback so much. I want to know how I can make the show better, if I could be less annoying. No one's commented on that, but I will because I can be annoying sometimes. So if you have any feedback, let me know. You can tell me on social media or you can leave a rating on Apple Podcasts. What else is happening that I would need to talk about before I end the show? Hey, COVID is still a thing. We got a new variant. It's called the Delta variant. So make sure you're still wearing a mask, washing your hands, and social distancing when you can. If you live in the United States, guess what? There's a link down below to find a vaccine site by your house. That's right. All you have to do is go to that website, enter your zip code, and find a vaccination site near you. So if you're hesitant about getting the vaccine, do your research. Don't listen to conspiracy theorists. It is approved by the FDA. So if that's someone's argument, tell them you're wrong. Just tell them straight up, you're so wrong, man. Get educated. It's the best way that you can protect yourself against this virus. It's like a flu shot, so don't be a big baby about it. Just get it. Just do it. This is not a Nike ad, but it could be. I'm kidding. What else is there? If you live in New York City, today, June 22nd, it is election day. So go and vote for the next mayor of New York City. I don't know how many New York City listeners I have, but if by chance you're listening and you're in NYC, go and vote for your new mayor. That's fun. I don't know if there's other primaries or primaries happening today. So have fun with that. I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that right now because that would suck. Imagine going to vote during a pandemic. I voted by mail for the other stuff. So I don't know if they're still doing that in NYC. But have fun with that. Go and vote. You have the right to vote, so you should exercise that right. I don't think there's anything else I need to talk about. Happy Pride Month. It's almost over, but still happy Pride Month. It's always a fun time to celebrate in June. My favorite month of the year because I get to wear rainbows and tell people not during Pride Month, I'm doing that little sarcastic thing because it's fun. Oh, you would only understand if you were celebrating Pride Month. Don't sit there with that judgy look on your face. Not during Pride Month. Get it? Okay. Yeah, I'm rambling here. I'm done. Thank you again for listening to another episode of the Women's Sports Matter podcast. Again, my name is Untitled Castro, and I'm your host. Thank you for listening. I will see you on Thursday with an interview that I did last week. I am prepared for 2 episodes this week. Isn't that awesome? I know. I'm an overachiever now. Thank you. But I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you guys next time. That's all, folks. Bye-bye.